Sono lieto di poter rievocare in poche parole le esperienze delle prime trasmissioni radiotelegrafiche a grandi distanze da me felicemente eseguite attraverso l'Oceano Atlantico il 12 dicembre 1901.
Holy snapping bra straps.
It's a podcast. Republic of Avalon Radio. It's 0 hours Avalon Standard Time. Republic of Avalon Radio. You're with the roar! Republic of Avalon Radio, you're with the roar. I'm Jim Fidler, and this is episode 44 of Republic of Avalon Radio. I don't know where the time goes. So, fall is in the air, no question about that. Things are cooled down considerably around here. Still very nice though, can't complain. And of course, everybody had a wonderful summer. And lots of things going on here, as I was saying last time. Working on the getting things going for the new record, and we've also started touching at the first bits of getting Atlantic Fest 2007 together, which is really exciting. And of course, there'll be more on that in the months to come. And the group, Carla, one of the BOW members, one of our singers, just got back from a very successful trip to Nashville. And she kept a journal while she was there, so we're going to put that journal up on our forum at republicofavalonradio.com. So that should be very interesting. And, of course, we're going to be working on some harmonies, I think, Thursday night. So at some point very, very soon, I think what I'll do is I'll actually let you guys hear a little bit of the stuff we're working on as we're kind of building the pieces and putting them all together. And you can kind of, over the next several months, get to see how a group is put together. So that should be very interesting. And, of course, because of the fact that I'll be set up and I'll be working on the record, everything will be downstairs, all set up. Drums will be all mic'd up and all that kind of stuff. So just a matter of running a few more cables, and we can actually record some rehearsals, multi-track, and do some quick little mixes and let you hear bits and pieces as it comes together. So we've been getting a bit of feedback from folks. Certainly not a whole heck of a lot, but I suppose that's a good thing in a way. Be careful what you wish for. We love to hear from you, though, as we always do. And, of course, You can send us email at republicofavalonradio@gmail.com. That's Republic of Avalon Radio. REPUBLICOFAVALONRADIO. And sometimes people forget the radio part at the end. So don't forget about the radio, please. Yes, indeed. Well, this week we have a little bit of a different thing for you. Quite an easy show for me. Somebody else did all the work. Thanks to Jeremy Hartley over at the Wholenote podcast. And that is just as it sounds, WHOLENOTE. And you can visit his website for the podcast at wholenotepodcast.com. Very easy. And Jeremy got in touch with me and asked me if I would consent to having a chat with him, do an interview for his show. Actually, Jeremy used to do a show at one point back in the days of internet radio via ACB radio. And now, thankfully, he's back in action again. And he asked me to come on and have a little chat with him. And one... What the heck was that? Check this out. That's a very disconcerting chord going on there. The music, by the way, as usual, is coming from the Mad Player, which is fantastic because it randomly generates music. This music you're hearing in the background has never been heard before and will never be heard again. And it's 100% copyright free, so just to kind of give you guys a little something underneath my monotonous ramblings, the Mad Player comes in very handy. And of course, just like human-generated songs, some are better than others, so there you go. So anyway, that's what's going on this week. We're going to bring you, with the kind permission of Jeremy Hartley and the Wholenote podcast, we're going to rebroadcast the interview that I did with him, part 1 of the interview, and very shortly we will be bringing you part 2. So, I guess, without too much more fooling around, why don't we just get on with it? Good times going on, folks. Very, 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 very good times. Lots of wonderful things are happening. And in case you didn't know it, the universe is just unfolding as it should. So, one last little thing that I will point out to you. If you've never done it before, just for the heck of it, try it. Next time you go to your supermarket, get some organic vegetables or organic fruit, especially the vegetables, especially something like potatoes. If you can get some organic potatoes and just try them, unbelievable. No comparison. Absolutely. The potatoes that they put the herbicides and pesticides and poisons all over, which of course is what the potatoes grow up on as they're alive and growing. They're constantly being poisoned. Those potatoes, compared to the organic, and all organic means, in case anybody doesn't know, it just means it was grown without any poisons. Some people think it's this big hippy-dippy thing, like, yeah, man, well, like, like we're eating organic potatoes, or something like that, but it just means you're eating potatoes the way pretty much anybody has ever grown them, without using some sort of poison that comes from some great huge multinational company that makes all these poisons for people to put on their food that they serve their children and themselves. So that's my little plug. Buy organic. And with no further ado, let's get on to the interview. This is, as I said, the Wholenote podcast. This is the episode. This is part 1 of the interview that I did with Jeremy Hartley. And a big thanks to Jeremy. Get over to his website, wholenotepodcast.com, and check out what he's up to over there. But in the meantime, kick back, enjoy, relax, and tolerate my ramblings. Actually, it didn't turn out as badly as I thought. I was feeling a bit foggy that day. I was suffering from fog brain, as we can from time to time. So I had no idea until I heard it myself. I didn't even have any recollection of what we talked about or anything. But didn't turn out too badly. So enjoy. Get in touch with us. Go to the website, republicofavalonradio.com. All the information's there. And I guess as a last little reminder, that whole thing is coming up soon, relatively soon anyway. We're bearing down on holiday season, Thanksgiving and Hanukkah and Christmas and all these things. So, as we are listener supported and commercial free, we would really appreciate if you go over to the website, republicofavalonradio.com, and throw us a little something over on the little button there. What's it called again? That little button that you press there. The PayPal button. That's it. But of course, even better than that, what we like to do is have you help spread the music at jimfidler.com. There's a link on the Republic of Avalon Radio website as well. But over either there or at jimfidler.com, JIMFIDLER. Are my CDs, my music that I produce, and I'm not with a label, completely independent. And Lillian, of course, she's a graphic designer and doesn't work for any company or anything either. So it's just us living our lives and doing our own thing, and so we have absolutely no backing, no money, no sponsorship, no nothing. So everything is appreciated, and of course, if you buy the CDs, then all the better, because you help spread the music around. And I do put my heart and soul into the music. Music is something for me. It's a born thing. It's something that I've had with me since the day I was born, and in my family for a long, long time. So I'm not rushing out to get a job in an office anywhere anytime soon. So absolutely, please do go over to the website and get the gift of music. Even if you have the CDs now, if you have them and you enjoy them and they mean something to you, just think about spreading that on to somebody else. And of course, if you've only heard songs here and there on the show here on the Roar, maybe it's about time to stop procrastinating and just grab something for yourself. Anyway, that's the extent of that. Please do go over, and please help spread this music around. I won't be around forever. Please God, I'll be around for another good while yet. But while I can still sing and play, and my hands and arms and legs and everything still work, and the music is here, please do help me spread this music around. And as I said before, lean back, enjoy. Thanks for everything. Thanks for listening. Thanks for staying subscribed. And, of course, a great, big, huge welcome to you, the new listener. Really, really, really glad to have you on board. Here's the interview coming up after the ID that I did with Jeremy Hartley of the Wholenote podcast. You're listening to Republic of Avalon Radio.
Republic of Avalon Radio.
Either you're with us or you're with the terrorists.
You're with the Roar!
And hello again, everybody. We are back, and the Wholenote program, podcast, whatever you want to call it, is back on the air. And this is Jeremy Hartley with you. We've had a little absence here, but it hasn't been that long. There's been a lot of things going on around Wholenote program central, I guess, and just taking care of some things. We have, as I promised last week, a very special guest. Well, I said last week, but it's actually been almost last month now. But Jim Fidler is our guest here on this program, and actually on the next program. We're going to split it in two, just like we normally do with the guests. That gives us plenty of time to listen to some music, and we're not really rushed, which is why I'm doing that way. And I've got a couple of other shows darn near finished. So what I might do is just release a lot of these all at once. And if you're listening to this in the future, then this really doesn't pertain to you. But if you're listening to this now, be on the lookout, because there'll probably be about 4 shows coming up here within the next 7 days, which is great. Be able to clear out my hard drive and get ready for some new shows, which will be coming up here rather shortly. So, in part 1 of the interview with Jim Fidler, we talk about his beginnings in music, and we talk a little bit about Newfoundland, which is where he is from, and we talk a little bit about Republic of Avalon Radio, which is the program or podcast, whatever you want to call it, that he is a part of. And actually, he's the creator and host, and he plays a lot of his music and some other people's music as well. And so we'll be talking about that. You can find out more by going to www.jimfidler.com. That's JIMFIDLER.com. And republicofAvalonradio.com. And we'll be, of course, giving that information out a little bit later on, as well as in the show notes at wholenotepodcast.com. Speaking of the name of the program, which, of course, is the Wholenote Podcast, I started that name about 6 years ago, actually, the first run of the program. However, I've been notified, and I happened to look, there is a Wholenote.com by some guitar place. Not quite sure if maybe I should think of changing the name. I'm not very partial to it, but I just sort of let it keep its name because I couldn't think of anything better. So if anybody wants to come up with anything better, let me know, and I'll give the contact info at the end of this show, as well as the end of every show that we do here. But let's get into this chat I had with Jim Fidler. So before we do that, we're going to play something from his first solo album called Gypsy. We're going to play the title cut off. Actually, not the title cut, but the first cut off the album. It's called Rhythm of the Goat, and it's quite a good tune to get us into this interview here. So feel free to grab a beverage of your choice if that's what you're in the mood for, or whatever you want, and sit back with us as we chat with Newfoundland's Jim Fidler.
St. John's, that's where I chanced to dwell. One night when I was playing in a pub you all know well, I met a girl from Carbonear who said she liked to dance, and if I knew just what to do, then maybe I'd have a chance. Well, I asked if she was partial to the jigs or to the reels. What was her particular fancy for kicking up her heels? She said she was fond of a melody and the singing of the note, but her particular fancy was the rhythm of the goat. When me rat-ti-tat-tilly-yow diddly and me rat-ti-tat-tilly-yow da, me rat-ti-tat-tilly-yow diddly and me rat-ti-tat-tilly-yow da. Well, I asked her for a particular tune that she might like to hear. I'd play it on me mandolin, me banjo or me musketeer. I'd play it on me whistle or on me fiddle, note for note, but all she said she wanted to hear was the rhythm of the goat. With me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da, me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da. Then I thought I knew just what to do, so then I turned to she. With me diddle-dum this one, diddle-dum that one, diddle-dum, diddle-dum dee. With me whack for Tora, Laura, and the story of Lookie's boat. But still she said she wanted to hear the rhythm of the goat. With me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da, me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da. Well, I then took out my bodhrán and I began to play a song I knew when I was young out in Conception Bay. Well, her feet, they hardly touched the floor, I knew I had her vote, 'cause I was finally playing the rhythm of the goat. With me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da, me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty, with me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da, me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty, with me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da, me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty, with me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da, me routy-touty-leo-diddly and me routy-touty-leo-da.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us a very special guest here on the Wholenote program. I wanted to say Wholenote podcast, but it's more than a podcast, isn't it? It's actually a show, a program, if you will. And so with us, we have a producer, a performer, a festival creator, organizer, and a podcast host, show host, all kinds of good stuff. Jim Fidler, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
I always like to ask the guests, how did they get involved in music? In other words, what was the magic that music did for you and got you into doing what you do right now?
Well, for me, I think it was, it's been in my family. My Fidler is actually an occupational name, and it more or less means pretty much what a tinker means. It's one who doesn't own houses and lands, one that kind of, in the case of the people who fix pots and pans and things, tinker with things. In this case, it's more about fiddling about with things and traveling around and making music. And usually it was for a pillow or a bit of hay, probably a few skins of ale and a bite to eat, and send you on your way again. And off you go to the next county fair or to the court of the next whoever up the road. Mm-hmm. So hundreds of years back, we've traced the name back to about the late 1200s that way. And in terms of myself personally, ever since I was born, it's when I was a little small wee child kind of thing. I was too busy sort of humming and tapping on things and so on that they had to start giving me instruments. And once the first one came my way, it was on to the next one and the next one. And I kind of liken it, Jeremy, to some hockey players you might hear ask the question, how old were you when you learned how to skate? And they honestly have to reply that they don't ever remember learning. So sort of like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that many times, actually, from, not only musicians, but as you said, hockey players, sports, baseball players, whatever the case may be. It's funny. I never really thought of it that way. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, as Bob Marley said, ever since, ever since creation. Yes.
That's right. And you're actually for those who don't know, you're in St. John's, Newfoundland. So you had to make sure I said that correctly.
Oh, perfectly. Congratulations. Yes. We say understand Newfoundland just to make it easier for people.
Right.
Yeah. Right out here in the middle of the Atlantic, in the middle of the North Atlantic, just kind of looking right across at the west coast of Ireland.
Wow, that's and for those of you who have listened to, as I have, the Republic of Avalon Radio, which of course we'll give all of the information out in the show notes and throughout the show while we're playing some music and that kind of thing. But the culture, the St. John's culture is just, it seems to me anyway, just as an observer, just quite amazing. You don't really see that quite a lot where I'm from in good old California anyway.
Well, I think some of my native North American brethren and sistren might tend to beg to differ with you on that, and perhaps even some of my European brethren and sistren might beg to differ. I think when you live in a kind of a McDonald's culture,
right?
Which of course is pervasive. It's spread all over the world. I mean, there's KFC in New Delhi. There's McDonald's here in St. John's, and there's that thing, and people tend to see that more. Of course, in the case of North America, European North America, at least, which certainly is the culture with whip in hand, no question. Mm-hmm. It is the predominant culture, or should we say pseudo-culture. It's so young. When you look at the west coast of North America, it's so young that it's very prefab. Everything was just paved, and especially in California, whole hilltops leveled, making level areas all the way up hills and building houses on them.
Right.
Quite foolishly, quite imprudently, because of course that won't sustain the seasons and rainfall, and so you have all kinds of massive erosion and landslides and all kinds of crazy man-made things that are generally thought of as being sort of acts of God or nature, but they're actually man-made. So it's also brand new out there anyway, that somewhere like here, St. John's, for example, we're looking at a place that was a thriving international seaport with all kinds of languages being spoken in the pubs and the downtown and up and down the docks and everything for hundreds of years before there were even any ideas of places such as New York or Toronto or Chicago or Detroit, let alone way, way out there on the West Coast.
Right. What kind of bands, and again, I'll have to sort of talk to you as far as what music we'll be featuring on the show here, but what types of bands have you been involved with just in your lifetime? And feel free to name off anything you want.
Boy, oh boy. I mean, everything from, a bit of sort of theatrical type stuff. Not so much, what you might think of, the theatrical productions, but was involved with a major thing in Toronto. We did a couple of runs, Mervish Productions, multi-million-dollar production that I did with Denny Doherty from the Mamas and Papas, and people might know John McDermott, one of the three Irish tenors, and Mary Jane Lamond, who had that big hit with Ashley McIsaac, I don't know, so many years back, and a whole bunch of people. And I guess in the 70s, I played with a bluegrass band that was very, very doing very, very well for itself in the Halifax and by extension, Halifax, Nova Scotia area, Halifax, Dartmouth, all around.
Right.
And various things, the traditional music here, Newfoundland, people call it Irish Newfoundland music, Irish/Newfoundland. Various forms of that. I played with a group called Rankin Street at one point, and my reggae band at the time, Pressure Drop, we were touring across Canada, and we had like the number one requested independently produced video on Much Music, which is the Canadian version of MTV.
Right.
At the time, and things were going really well. And so I pulled over toward that direction, and the group Rankin Street I was playing with got a new guy in, changed their name to Great Big Sea, and they went on to have I don't know how many platinum albums and win just oodles and oodles and oodles of awards and so on. And I'm sure some of your listeners would have heard of Great Big Sea before. Mm-hmm. And, well, I'm just in the midst right now of re-energizing my group, The Experience, which is like a 12-piece group, full horn section, 3 female backing vocalists. I'm back on drums and lead vocals, where I love to be the most, and bass and keyboards and guitars and percussion. And the nuts and bolts of it, the foundation is, if you imagine, say, Bob Marley and the Wailers, and you create that kind of a framework, that kind of a foundation, then you expand out a little bit into some North African, Eastern European, Middle Eastern, Celtic overtones thrown in on top of that. And so that's what's always interested me, is people music, not just folk music. Folk music tends to denote one particular thing, usually like a white Western European or North American 60s revival, sort of, Pete Seeger and
right,
I guess Bob Dylan, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But the folk music I love is stuff like Salif Keita, Manu Dibango, Turi Kunda, Christy Moore, Planksty, Altan, so various types of musics from all over the world. And the thing that they all seem to have in common is that they take the culture of that place. Reggae is another example of that. They take the roots of their culture, and they look around the world at the time, and instead of just playing music for their next door neighbor who's heard it a million times before, they reshape it and they present it to the world. That's what I love the most when people do that.
Yeah, and it definitely comes out in your music. Of course, you had several solo albums, and I was reading a couple of reviews here before the interview, and that's one of the things that I believe the guys, let's see if I get this right, I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, but Mark Jackson?
Okay, Mark Von Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I remember him saying, that it seemed to be you were capturing not only, especially when you do remakes of songs such as Fields of Gold, where you seem to also capture the spirit as well as what the original tune was meant to say. So you seem to really get an idea of how to capture that sort of spirit.
Well, I think that's easy enough to do. I think you just have to listen to the songs. A lot of times when you have people arranging songs, they're actually really disarranging them, or I think songs arrange themselves for the most part. You listen to them, they tell you what they want. Some people are like that with children too. They really push children around and put them in a regiment, and you sit here, you say this, speak, don't speak, whatever. And we ask them stupid questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Not, how can we assist you in developing into the best you who you already are, but how can we help you develop into the best you can possibly be in the future? So I think people push songs around the way that they push children around. And you'll take a song and you'll say, oh, gee, yeah, I think I'll put bagpipes right there, or I think a tuba right over there. And so sometimes people treat songs the way that they unfortunately treat children a lot of the time. I like to listen to the songs and just let them tell me what they need.
Well, you know, that brings me back to something I heard you mentioning about when you were creating your Midnight Rover album, and you were talking about how it's sort of, the album sort of drug you around by the nose, as it were. Yeah.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah, that album made me make it. That album made me make it. That's exactly the way that was. I had no plans to make that album. I had just put together the group, and we had just played, and then 10 days later went over to Ireland to play at the Arts Festival in Waterford. And after that, took a little shot over to East Cork, and then into Cork, and up and down. And by the time I got back over here, I was, as we say around here, face and eyes into this record that I had no intention of making. And of course, the whole group just faded away, went by the wayside. But yeah, that album had a will, I'll tell you that.
And that was a lot of different. I've heard a lot of the cuts off of that album, and it seems to just flow one song into another. I liken it to sort of the old fashioned albums, where you know. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Without sort of being contrived. I didn't. I wasn't so much trying to say make a concept album or whatever, but I love the album myself. I always, growing up, always loved stuff like Dark Side of the Moon and Crime of the Century and Days of Future Past and all that. You know, for you folks who don't know any of this old ancient stuff, we're talking about stuff like Pink Floyd and Supertramp and Moody Blues, Roxy Music, Avalon, that album.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's funny because I'm always thinking like that and I never quite do it, but I think I do it just enough, in terms of, continuity, the order of the songs and the whole color and the mood. And, you really do want to, each song is kind of like a painting. That's the way I look at it. Mm-hmm. And, what you paint each one with sound. And it is important, the order, in which you place them in the hall, through which somebody is seeing them in the exhibition. You don't just flick them all up on a wall. So when people are coming through looking at your exhibition, it's important which ones they see first and second and third and fourth. And I just sort of think of the songs the same way, really.
Right.
If I called her goes down to the river with the sunshine all in her hair. When she goes down to the river, does she go? I'm waiting there. Does she know? I'm waiting there. If she knew, would she care?
And you've produced some albums with some people, and that's, what is it like for you to produce other people's work?
Well, boy, that totally varies, because sometimes I've had to actually be the whole band. People have come to me and they it's just themselves. I produced a record once for this guy called Eamon Dillon from Belfast. He's a five-time All-Ireland uilleann pipe champion. And I think he's a 3-time All-Ireland whistle champion as well, and so on. And his sister Roisin is an All-Islander, and also his brother. So that's really in the genes there. But he came to me. He showed up here with his pipes and a napkin with some tune titles written on it. And so I had to just build a band. I've also had groups come to me who didn't have a sound. They just sort of, played in the pubs and stuff. They didn't have a sound, so I had to kind of invent a sound for them. And on one occasion, I had a group called the Masterless Men that I produced their first record. They just had such a freshness to them that I wanted to record it. So I just went up to them. I don't run my studio in the sense of I don't have a shingle out front, and I'm not here all day like working on radio spots and things like that. Mm-hmm. The studio it's my toolkit, and I'll sort of work on my stuff or whatever stuff the Great Spirit, the universal creator sends me. And this group was just very, very fresh. They had such a fresh sound. They played traditional music, Irish/Newfoundland traditional music with a really, really crisp bluegrass infusion. And I saw that their crispness, their freshness was starting to wane a slight bit. And I just went up to them one evening, one night, maybe they were on a break or whatever. And I said, gee whiz, I'd really like to record you guys. I'd like to produce a record. And, cause your freshness is waning. I want to capture this before it goes away. And, so I set them up in the studio and basically recorded that whole record 99% off the floor.
Wow.
I think we went in and added the bass afterward. There was one spot where I, pulled a little metal stick up over a set of wind chimes at the beginning of one song. But for the most part, that was done off the floor. and true enough, as it turned out, they were at their freshest, and they never really regained that thing that I wanted to capture. And so I'm really glad I did that. So it really all depends, yeah. Really, really, really all depends.
And in terms of that, it's funny, another thing just popped in my head just now. How about each person has their own kind of way of getting to songwriting, and some people, they'll sit down and they'll write a song, almost sort of Lennonize it, where John Lennon could sit there and just go, I need to write a song, and he would do it, seemingly. Yeah. How is it for you in terms of songwriting, or does it just really vary from song to song?
Well, I don't know. It's one of those kind of funny things, like I was saying about listening to the songs, as opposed to trying to poke things in them.
Right.
And, and there's a difference. Okay, everybody, let's say east of where I am, plug your ears. Everybody west, you're fine. You call movies, things. Yeah, there's a difference between shagging and making love. It's the same thing too. So I guess, I can sit down and write words on paper and make things rhyme and all that kind of stuff. But really, to be quite honest, for the most part, I don't call myself a songwriter. I refer to myself as a song catcher. Mm-hmm. And, songs and sometimes whole arrangements and harmonies and bass lines and counterpoint and rhythm sections, everything come to me in one big scoop. And I just think it just comes from the creator. And when I happen to be in tune, it comes to me. And woe be unto me if I'm not in tune and I miss out, because I've written things, seriously, Jeremy, I've written things that I didn't know what they meant, lyrical references and things that I have to afterward I look at it and go, oh my God, listen to that. Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah. It's kind of like,
amazing.
It's sort of that Bob Dylan, I think it was Bob Dylan that said that many, many years ago. He says he's just open to receiving, opening to channeling what's there to receive, sort of a thing.
Yeah, I don't like to use the word channeling. It sounds a bit new agey to me, potentially demonic. Yes, we must warn listeners to the Wholenote podcast. Do not play with Ouija boards, and don't be channeling. You never know who you might tune in. Yes.
You've been involved with something the last 2 years that I thought was just incredible. The Atlantic Fests. Talk a little bit about that. It's been 2 years in a row, I guess now?
2 years in a row, yeah. It started out after that trip to Ireland. There was a fellow over there called Ken Cotter in Cork who had this idea about kind of a meeting of Newfoundland and Irish songwriters, and it was called Islands of Song. And so we met up with him when I went over to do the arts festival in Waterford. That's why we went up to East Cork to meet up with him. And it just sort of occurred to us because of doing that show in Toronto, the vibe. I can tell you, if I didn't understand before how say soldiers feel, or people who've maybe won a World Cup together or a World Series. That's a funny one, you guys, with your World Series. I find that hilarious. But
World Series, and the only other international teams are Canada, and that's not even.
Yeah, exactly. And that's only, well, anyway.
I've wondered that myself, even though I'm a huge baseball fan. I've wondered that myself.
I love baseball myself. Just within the last year, just a few months ago, there was the actual real World Series. And that was brilliant. Boy, there was some really good baseball going on there.
Yeah.
Between the Japanese and the Cubans and various other people.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, that whole thing, there was there were 100 of us in Toronto, that we were doing 8 shows a week. And, when you have 100 people that literally from second to second throughout a show have to have their foot on a dot somewhere backstage or on the stage or to the side of the stage, boom, 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 everything moving along. All the carpenters and electricians and the people operating, say, props and scrims and dancers. I mean, we had huge, thunderous stage fulls of world champion Irish and Scottish dancers, as well as some of the Ottawa River Valley dance and the Cape Breton stuff represented.
Wow.
And some of the best instrumentalists and singers and things, and some of the best session musicians in Toronto in the pit as the core band. When you get all that going and you do that 8 nights a week for week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out, it teaches you something about being a part of a machine, being one little piece of a very well-oiled machine, the sum of which the parts, the sum of which is larger than the machine itself. Mm-hmm. So I mean, a well-oiled automobile just sitting idling by the side of the road is one thing,
right?
But when you actually are part of that ride, it's incredible. And I thought to myself afterward, will I ever feel that feeling again? I understand how people feel when they've from having that experience. And I've talked to people since then, military people, mm-hmm. and without showing my hand, just not that long ago, actually, quite recently, I had a conversation with somebody, and I said, so, what's it like? You know, it's kind of like this, isn't it? I kind of led them along a little bit. And sure enough, exactly the same thing. And the same with people who, like I say, win a Stanley Cup together. Or for the rest of your life, you've experienced something with a group of other people where each individual had to be their best, but the individuality was the least significant part of the whole process. Everybody had to be giants, but bowing their heads humbly while doing so and helping each other out and cooperating. So mm-hmm. I thought, will I ever have this feeling again? You know, and nobody else had been making it or creating it, and it was just a sad thing for me to consider. Never ever experiencing that again. So we decided. Part of a few little things that we creatively want to do, with this Islands of Song opportunity and 7 singer-songwriters coming over from Ireland, wouldn't this be a great opportunity to do something? So we did. We launched Atlantic Fest the first year in 2005 with 7 singer-songwriters from Ireland, 6 from here, including some people that some of your listeners may know. Mm-hmm. Ron Hines wrote a song that's famous all over the world. In fact, in Ireland, people will argue with you bitterly that it's an Irish song, but no, he wrote a song called Sonny's Dream. Pamela Morgan from the group Figgy Duff. Colleen Power, singer-songwriter. Let's see, Daryl Power, one of the guys from Great Big Sea. Mm-hmm. Don't want to forget anybody. Daryl, Colleen, Ron, Pamela, Hugh Scott, and myself. So 7 from over there, 6 from here. The Sean Silver Irish Dancers, an absolute to die for group of the best session musicians from Newfoundland. The Arts and Culture Centre, which is a wonderful venue, and all the venues downtown. So we created this kind of multi-venue, upwardly mobile, constantly moving event. And, boy, I'll tell you, for the first year, the two of us not having taken on such a thing ever before, just unbelievable, because from the Need Fire, from the show that I did in Toronto that inspired us taking this on in the first place, it's all a matter of how you think. You know, what is it they say about the snail doesn't even know you're there because you're moving too fast.
Right.
Well, any sort of project, I would say to any of your listeners, any time anybody's wondering about doing something, you're thinking to yourself, oh, I'd really like to do something like that, but you know, it's too much work, or it's too difficult, or I'd probably fool it up, or no. If you know what you're doing, in the sense that if it can fit in your head, it can fit in the world. You can make it happen just by, like I said, if it can fit in your head, if you can conceive of it, then you just surround yourself with good people, good talented people, and don't get in their way. Let people do their job. It's a mistake we make quite often in life. I think we hire people to do things, and then we get in their way, and we run interference on them and give them static. Pick good people, and don't get in their way. Let them do their job, and that's what we did.
Yeah. I noticed, it was funny, there was just a little bit of delay right there.
Okay.
Good old
no
Skype.
Problem. Yeah, no problem. Still got you loud and clear.
The one thing I was going to say was that I noticed that I was listening to one of the shows from the first year from the Galacast, and
yep.
You were one of the things that you had mentioned before playing this little clip was that Jer Wolf was, tapping people on the shoulders and saying, can you help me sing this song, that I wrote and everything like that. And you were saying that how great it was that everybody stuck to the guidelines, but you didn't want to stand too much in their way. And it's a good thing that you didn't, you had said, because people would just come up and start singing with each other, and just, it was, a lot of inspirational things going on there.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it's all about. And the same with the band, the backing band. Mm-hmm. Those, when you listen to those Galacasts and you hear that band that's backing those people.
Right.
Literally, days before that recording, none of those musicians had ever heard any of them songs.
Wow. And they were tight.
Yeah. Yeah. So I showed, instead of going in all nervous, being Mr. Director and waving batons around and clapping my hands and raising my voice and being curt with everybody, I went in and I really, really, really did, display a very, very sincere show of faith in every one of those people, individually and collectively. And, I don't think I would have been able to do it, say, 10 years ago. I mean, there's, certainly, like I say, that Needfire thing was all there was to it. And this, in comparison to Needfire, was nothing. See, that's the thing. In comparison, it was a cakewalk. It was no problem. So, having been through one, and the other side of that too is, when I did the Needfire thing, I didn't just show up and sing my song and then go goof off. I was like a sponge. I was drinking the whole thing up. And I spent time with, during the show and after the shows, Nick go over for a beverage, across the alleyway to the Kit Kat or whatever, there in the theater district of Toronto. I would go for a beer with the musical director, Rick Fox, Michael J. Fox's brother. One evening I might be having a beer with him. The next evening I might be having a beer with one of the electricians or one of the carpenters, working on the sets and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, right from the bottom up and the top down, I was just I really seriously loved that whole experience. And, I guess I'm just really committed now at this point in my life to not just, I say, making records and, wanting, I never ever pursued the number one hit or whatever. I never did a quote unquote pop sort of record, trying to, impress Mr. Kasem or anything like that. We've got one person in our family who does that very well. And so we'll let her do that and I'll do my thing. But, that whole thing, that's really, at this point on in my life, I would like to say within the next 10, 20 years, that myself and Lillian have created something. We've created a kind of a vortex, that can spread out, bigger and bigger. And as it spreads out, it gets gentler and gentler. And, when I'm saying gentler, I mean the vortex sounds kind of scary. Mm-hmm. But something that starts right here with us with an awful lot of intensity and then gradually reaches out and includes a lot of other people. I'd like as an old man to sit back and look at the fruits of our labors, because every bit of the intention that's going into the labor is it's about giving as opposed to taking. But ultimately, taking is part of the process as well. The emphasis is on the giving, but you always know that when you give, you're going to receive. Mm-hmm. And people shouldn't be bashful about that either, I don't think.
Well, and one of the things that definitely comes out in that, one needs to only listen to maybe, 1.5 episodes of The Roar, to just realize that it's not just, it doesn't seem to be just a show. It doesn't seem to be just, some way to just say a bunch of random words. There's just a lot of, it's just a feeling. It's really interesting. I only became acquainted with The Roar, 7 days ago. And wow. I have been listening to, let's see, I'm on show let's see, 19 now. And
Okay.
just, listening to it whenever I get a chance, and a lot of times late at night, and with the headphones on and doing
That's
that.
the best time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's so much fun. But that's the thing I've noticed is that you just, as an audience member or a listener, the thing I get really hooked into is not just the ambiance recordings are fantastic, but just the attitude, the vibe. I think that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Is that the
Okay.
vibe is there, and it's a very giving vibe, and you bring a lot of people into the broadcast as you go on. It might just be a guy on a skateboard getting Pearl Jam tickets.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, both myself and Lillian are children, and that's what it's all about. My joke, and I only tell people it's a joke, but I'm actually serious. People say, so do you guys have any children? And I say, yes, we have 2, each other. And so we want to have more little children, as in people like ourselves, not so we can be their parents, but we want more children around us, more children of all ages. And that's what that thing is all about. And we really, really do. The concept of Republic of Avalon Radio is that we want to take people with us, not just talk at them or play music out at them, but we really want to take people in. So if, I don't know, you hear all these kinds of things, people saying things like that, they don't really mean it. It's just part of their script or something like that. But for us, it really seriously, anybody who any of your listeners who know the show, really seriously, we're not fibbing. We're not codding you, as we say around here. We're not kidding around with you. When we say that, you guys are important to us, and that we want to take you along with us, and please do wear the headphones. We mean all that. We're not just kidding around. Yep.
wrapping up this edition of the Wholenote program, that was Lillian, A Portrait in Sound, by my guest, Jim Fidler. Hope you enjoyed part 1 of this interview, and coming up rather shortly is going to be part 2. And in part 2, we're going to be discussing some more about the various festivals and things that Jim has been involved in. Of course, we'll talk a little more about Republic of Avalon Radio. Talk a little bit about the types of podcasts that Jim likes to listen to. He's got some great recommendations for all of us, and I know that I've already taken him up on some of the recommendations and been listening to 3 or 4 of the podcasts that he mentioned, so you want to stick around for that. And, well, of course, we're going to be hearing some music as well. So, well, I guess that's just going to do it for us. If you have any questions, you can call the comment line. You can just leave a message there. It's just straight to voicemail at area code 206-203-0644. Or you can drop an email to jeremyhartley@comcast.net, JEREMYHARTLEY@comcast.net. Of course, all of this information is available at wholenotepodcast.com, where all of the shows and back shows and all that stuff are located, with all the other guests and show notes as far as links to going to websites, for example, that I just forgot to mention. You can check out more of my guest, Jim Fidler, by going to either republicofavalonradio.com or jimfidler.com, JIMFIDLER.com. And, of course, all that information will be available in the show notes, which is exactly what I was trying to get at before. I guess that's what happens. But anyway, be sure to join us for part 2 of the interview conducted with Jim Fidler. And a lot more interesting things coming along the way as well. So you want to keep your podcatcher close by and get ready for some more episodes of the Wholenote program /podcast. Until next time, this is Jeremy Hartley saying, enjoy the rest of your week.
Republic of Avalon Radio.
The best radio in the whole wide world.
You're with the roar.
a Root Cellar production.